New reports indicate that Marvel's next Avengers movie is going to be set up by Captain Marvel 2. Let's talk about this new report and what it means for the MCU in Phase 5. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Smash that like button like Captain Marvel, and let's get right into this news. In a new report coming from MCU Cosmic, Jeremy Conrad goes into a new rumor about Captain Marvel 2 and how it relates to a bunch of other things he has been hearing. Now, as always, I recommend you go over and check out his actual article about this. Make up your own mind about what you think he is implying, but he says a couple of things that we need to dig into right here. Number one, he talks about how he's heard a rumor that Captain Marvel 2 will set up the status quo of the next Avengers film, just like Civil War set up Infinity War and Endgame. And beyond that, he says it's very possible that whatever director comes on for Captain Marvel 2 might actually get the very next Avengers movie, which he also mentions for sure is happening. However, Jeremy does mention that there's another huge name that Marvel Studios is looking to get for Captain Marvel 2, and if they got this person, it would be a huge fan favorite because Spider-Man is likely to be involved in Captain Marvel 2. But the main points of Jeremy's article is that there's definitely an Avengers movie being planned for probably the 5 or 6 year mark after last year's San Diego Comic-Con. They have that movie planned. Captain Marvel 2 is definitely going to set up the status quo for that film, just like Captain America Civil War set up Infinity War and Endgame, and that there's a multitude of different teams that will be in play in Phase 4 and 5 of the MCU. This includes the Young Avengers and the Thunderbolts, potentially the New Avengers, and potentially the Midnight Suns. Now, I gotta give it to Jeremy. This was a juicy article, has a lot of different crazy stuff, so there's gonna be a ton of stuff I want to break down with you guys. A lot of this is gonna be sort of mixing my speculation, so take my hand and let's go to Speculation Town. Number one, it kind of seems like Jeremy's confirming that Spider-Man is indeed going to be in Captain Marvel 2. Now, that is actually a huge deal because that's been rumored a lot, but I don't know why he would put it in his article like this unless he was pretty confident that that was going to happen. And this is fascinating to me because do you folks remember when there were all of those reports? I believe they were actually started by Doomcock about how Marvel Studios has lost confidence in Captain Marvel 2, how they were going to be plugging Spider-Man into that film. Well, if you'll remember, when I reported about Doomcock's scoop, I put forward his scoop and what he was talking about, and I told you guys, despite Doomcock having sort of a checkered history with scoops, I actually believe that there's something to this report, that it's not complete bullcrap. The angle I took on it, though, was that yes, indeed, Spider-Man was going to be involved in Captain Marvel 2, and that is likely the reason that that film was left off the slate at San Diego Comic-Con of last year. And now that seems even more possible. And to me, it's not so much that they were losing faith in Captain Marvel. I mean, the movie made $1 billion, but they're not completely blind either, right? I know a lot of people like to kind of paint it one way or the other, where they're like either taking a hard line on this thing and not listening to all these haters on the internet, or they're totally reciprocating and they're going to bend the knee. It's not like that. It's like, look, you can totally acknowledge that Captain Marvel had problems. It wasn't the best MCU film. It's still a major successful movie. There should be some changes made, and by the way, they did. They're not bringing back the directors or writers for that movie for the next one, which is just as clear of a signal as you can put forward that yes, we know there were problems with that movie and we are going in a different direction with people behind the camera. And Spider-Man does have a ton of goodwill with Marvel fans. I do think it would make a lot of sense to have Spider-Man and Captain Marvel hanging out in her next movie. It would go a long way to make her more relatable. And not just like as a character in the sense that people don't like Brie Larson, but just in general, that character's performance in Captain Marvel is kind of wooden. Contextually and diegetically, that makes sense for what Carol's going through in that film, but it doesn't leave a lot for us to hold on to as fans. Like, we can't really relate to her, and she's still really separate than a lot of the other Avengers and the Marvel characters that we love. So putting her with Spider-Man is a no-brainer. And with that in mind, when Jeremy says that this big name would come over and it would be huge for Marvel, the only person I can think of, because he did mention Spider-Man, is John Watts. Now, why would this make sense? Why would this be such a good get? Well, John Watts is an incredible director doing the Homecoming and Far From Home movies. Fans seem to really respond to those movies, but also this would be another one of those Feige-type shots across the bow to grab John Watts, take him away from whatever Sony's doing with their Marvel universe, and put him safely officially in charge of Captain Marvel 2 and potentially the next Avengers film. And so that's really cool. Again, it's a lot of speculation, but that's just one part of what Jeremy was talking about in his article. Let's get into some of the other stuff with scheduling, with the stories that we think are going to be happening and how I see this playing out in Phase 5. So let's work through this, man, right? A lot of people said there were rumors that Secret Invasion was going to be what was done in Captain Marvel 2. Now, Jeremy in this article mentions that they think, by they I mean the people at MCU Cosmic, think that that's actually going to take place in a Disney Plus series leading into Captain Marvel 2. Or at least he doesn't mention Captain Marvel 2, but that's what I've heard, that it will lead into Captain Marvel 2. And then Captain Marvel 2 with Spider-Man and probably a lot of the other Avengers as well will sort of set up the status quo for the next Avengers movie that Marvel will set up. And also there will be other teams in play, the Young Avengers and Thunderbolts and potentially the Avengers, even in Captain Marvel 2. Well, the way I see all of these moving pieces coming together will be sort of a version of Secret Invasion that starts in the Disney Plus show, happens in Captain Marvel 2. I do think this would involve the Brood, and I think we could see a version of when Norman Osborn takes out the Skrull Queen at the end of Secret Invasion, leading to Dark Avengers, meaning whatever happens at the end of Captain Marvel 2, we'll probably see a sort of nefarious figure take the final shot on, I don't know, the leader of the Brood, or basically save the day, which will set up for that next Avengers movie. And what I'm saying to you is, I believe that Captain Marvel 2 will likely set up Dark Avengers as the next Avengers movie. Now, it's a running joke here at the channel, just how obsessed I am with Dark Avengers and how badly I want it to happen. But I mean, come on, it's not just the fact that I like it, it just makes sense, right? Am I crazy to think that these different things we've been hearing, the fact that they do have plans for Norman Osborn or a Norman Osborn type character, the fact that the Thunderbolts are being introduced, the fact that there might be a Secret Invasion storyline covered in both the Disney Plus show and in Captain Marvel, and the fact that this film is supposed to set up the status quo for the next Avengers movie. Well, come on, Dark Avengers is absolutely perfect for the next Avengers movie. Like, I'm telling you right now, it would be mind-blowing to see the next Avengers movie after Endgame be Dark Avengers with a crew of villains and nefarious figures holding the mantles of those characters we loved in Endgame. Wouldn't you be pissed? I mean, I'd be kind of into it because I like the Dark Avengers, but there'd be a part of me that'd be kind of pissed, man. And that's the kind of energy you want out of your fan base. And after that movie, we can see the real Avengers or the Secret Avengers or the new Avengers, you know, people like T'Challa, Captain Marvel, Doctor Strange, and Spider-Man going up against the state-sponsored Dark Avengers, and we could do a version of Dark Reign. But that's, of course, just my thoughts and kind of where my head always goes with this sort of stuff. And either way, there's a lot of cool stuff in this article and in this report. So let us know what you think about this in the comments section below. And now let's shout out Christopher Doran. Yes, indeed, Joss Whedon was working on a Batgirl film before that fell apart over at Warner Brothers. So shout out to you, Christopher. And now let's ask another nerd card question before we get out of here. I want to know, who was Spider-Man under the mask during the Dark Avengers? There was a Spider-Man on the Dark Avengers, but obviously wasn't Peter Parker. Who was Spider-Man in the Dark Avengers? Answer that question in the comment section below. Yet another reminder, folks, we are working on our big trivia contest, which should be starting next month. We're looking for teams to participate. If you are a team of 4 out there, have somebody email us at thedenofnerds@gmail.com or hit us up on social media. And if you're just a single person that wants to be involved in our trivia contest, hit us up in an email or a message on social media, and we'll try to find a team for you. Some videos over here, you can click or tap to get lost down a nerdy rabbit hole. Like the video if you liked it. And as I always say, I hope you're having an awesome and a nerdy day, and I'll see you in the next video.